Mother, where we talk about all things motherhood. And today I'm going to talk about weaning, a subject that can be very confusing, complicated, especially if you're a new age mom. For those who are lucky to breastfeed their children up till 6 months, that's a good thing. I was lucky to have a baby who breastfed till 6 months. I had enough breast milk. It's easier, but if you do not have enough milk, or for any other reason you cannot produce enough milk and you have to wean your baby earlier, it is still okay, and you can combine it with formula, as many of you have done. But today I'm going to talk about weaning your child way over 6 months, because that's what I did, and that's what I'm in a position to share today. So I will dive right in. And if your baby has just clocked 6 months or is about to clock 6 months and you're wondering where do I start, this is the channel to watch, because I am going not only to do it in a very simple way, but I'm going to incorporate very Kenyan centric things, as opposed to things you'll just watch on YouTube and you're like, where can I get this? So I took notes so that I don't forget, because right now my baby is way over 6 months. But the first thing I did is to go to a nutritionist and get nutritional advice. Again, I'm not a doctor, so whatever I say is not a blueprint of what you should do, but this is what worked for me. Feel free to pick a few things here and there, and if not, feel free to do what works for your child. I went to a nutritionist, and she guided me and gave me the do's and cons. I expressed my fears and concerns. Again, they have to check the baby. They have like a full baby check during the 6 month period, where they tell you everything about the child, and now you will be taken through the whole weaning process. If you have questions, you can ask the doctor. If not, and your baby is healthy, thank the Lord, because it becomes easy. When I left the hospital week 1, because I really wanted to experiment, and I know so many people tell you, take a week before you introduce her to the next food, but what I did, I went straight to introducing my daughter to uji. So she would take breast milk, but I went and just bought Famila weaning porridge. That is what I started with, and I prepared it as we would prepare it, and put a bit of breast milk, make it super light, because again, she's just starting how to, I want it to be as smooth or as light as what she takes, so that it's not too rapid a change for her. So I was preparing I prepared my porridge using Famila weaning porridge, but I tried to make it very, very light so that she can at least consume it. And I did not use sugar. I did not put anything sweet. While I know breast milk is sweet, I just decided, let me just not introduce her to sugar just yet, see how that plays out. So she ended up liking it, but over time, like after 3 days, I realized she was taking quite a lot of it, and it was a bit too light. So I decided to go back to Quickmart. You can find this at Quickmart Naivas, and I did not want to go to Kirinyaga Road, and part of the reason was because, personally, I just felt a combination of all those things was too much for baby's stomach at that time. I wanted a combination of, at minimum, two combos of either wheat flour or maize flour or sorghum, or just 2 combos, and not everything all in one. It becomes so difficult. So that is what I started with, and then I think after a week or so, then and all the while I was giving her breast milk. So that does not mean that by the mere fact that you're weaning, it's a substitute for breast milk. No, but what you will realize is that over time, the production of breast milk will go down, because breast production is dependent on how much the baby consumes. So the more the baby breastfeeds, the more the breast milk comes out. But if now you're substituting it for something else, you will realize the quantities sort of go down, which is okay. It's normal. After her getting used to porridge, I went to introducing her to now a couple of light starches with breast milk. I was lucky enough to have breast milk, so I would just combine all these things with breast milk. So I went ahead and introduced her to sweet potato. I would boil the sweet potatoes, put a little bit of salt, like a pinch literally of salt, and add in their breast milk. Potato can be very hard and difficult to digest, especially for a 6-month-old child. So I tried to make it super light, like really, really light, lighter than porridge, so that she's able to take it. She ended up liking it. Potato is naturally sweet, and it's a favorite for kids, or so I've heard. I tried it with my child, it worked. I gave it like 3 days before introducing her to the next meal, and the next meal I introduced her to was carrots and breast milk. So I would do the whole cycle thing. After 3 days, I introduced her to a starch or a veggie and add in there some breast milk or formula if that's what you're using. So that is what I used. After 3 days, I would then introduce her to warus and a bit of breast milk. She loved warus, she loved sweet potatoes, and that ended up being her favorite to date. After like I think 1.5 weeks of her getting used to it. Remember now I'm giving her 2 meals a day. I'm giving her aside from breast milk, which she takes constantly, I would then give her porridge, which is very light, Famila baby Weaning porridge and the Wimby flour, which I mixed, and then maybe lunch hour or dinner I would give her the same food, so that I don't introduce her to like so many meals on the same day. And after 3 days I would then change it to another meal, carrots and breast milk. She'd have that for lunch and dinner for like 3 days and then move on to the next. And she acclimatized really fast. She liked most of the foods I would make, and my motto really is, even if it's baby food you're making, make sure you can eat it, so that you don't give her food that is not tasty. At least prepare it in a manner that it's going to be tasty. Sometimes I would add unsalted butter to the waru, so that the food is good, it's tasty, she can eat it, she can enjoy it. It's just not about her eating it and having some nutrients, but it's also a matter of her enjoying the food you're making. So just ensure that whatever you're giving her is something that you can eat, and you're not just giving her baby food. I think 2 weeks later, I started doing combinations. And by combinations, I mean I would introduce her to spinach. So I would mash potatoes and introduce in some spinach, which is blended, because again, you don't want her to get choked. And that is among some of the things that parents fear, some of the things that doctors will warn you about. And then what I would do is blend my spinach, wash it thoroughly, because again, this is Nairobi. Wash it thoroughly, make sure it is clean, cut it into pieces, blend it kawaida. I would actually boil it first and then blend, then mix that with warus, mashed potato or carrots or whatever it is, and she ended up enjoying it. For me, spinach worked. It was the only veggie I could introduce at the time, aside from carrots, because I just think sukuma wiki has a lot of gas and all those things. It is also it's harder than the rest, and I steered away from it. I also introduced her to mchicha. Mchicha is if you cook it properly, it's really nice. It's good. You can add milk in there, and it blends really well with most of these starches. So those are the 2 veggies I would introduce her to. Terere, I would go buy terere, mix it with mchicha, or I just buy terere and cook it on its own. It's really nice. I don't cook it to submission. I just boil it a bit, fry it kidogo with some little olive oil or butter or whatever you deem fit for you. But because this was a baby, I did not want her to have saturated fats immediately. So I bought olive oil and just fried, so to give it some taste, because already the warus are boiled. So I don't want to combine 2 boiled things together. It's so boring. So that is what I will do. Later on, after a week, I would do combos. So if I'm giving her waru, I'd mix in there some spinach or terere or mchicha. If I'm giving her sweet potatoes or carrots or malenge, I would then mix it up and see how she takes it. And it was good. Later on, I introduced, and remember, throughout this journey, I have not introduced high protein foods like eggs, because again, it depends on you, but it was my choice to not do that. Eggs are a high protein food, so I decided to introduce her to eggs a year once she turns a year, and that's exactly what I did. She ended up not liking it, but it's okay. Next was, so we're in month 7. She's now getting used to eating starches, potatoes, warus, malenge, all of that stuff. And now she's even having a combination of meals in month 7, week 1, week 2, thereabouts. I also now introduced her to lentils, ndengu, and beans. I started introducing her to beans at around month 8. And that's where now I even introduced her to rice. So it would be, I'd just give her plain lentils, plain ndengus, plain whatever. But later on, okay, she didn't like that as much, so later on I would find a perfect combination. You all know having mashed warus and dengus doesn't, like, I can't even imagine, so I wouldn't imagine giving it to my daughter. So I wanted to find like a really perfect mix. If I'm giving her lentils, I'd give her lentils with maybe warus, see if that makes tastes well. If it does, then I'd introduce her. If this thing does not, if the combination is not good, then I would just go ahead and give her plain dengos, plain lentils, and she'd be happy. Later on, around my month 8 thereabouts, she started, exploring. Her palate was now, accustomed to different types of foods and different types of meals, and she was enjoying it. And so I decided, okay, fine, let me try and introduce soup. And I would start with, if I'm frying meat, I would start with soup. I would put it in either warus or sweet potato and see how that plays out. She would enjoy it. I would mash my rice and give it to her with either dengos or beans. This time now she's having beans, she's having dengos, and she would enjoy it. I would now make ugali, mash it, give her with either meat soup or chicken soup, and she would love it. I would introduce terere later on with now a combination of that, and mash it, make it really soft, and she would enjoy it. What I just wanted is for her to enjoy the food, have a variety, and see what happens. During that period of time, she was not allergic to anything, but my point here is, even as you wean your child, it shouldn't be expensive. Just give her what you eat. Eventually she will eat with you guys. Like right now, she eats round about everything, and she is happy. So my thing is, just introduce her to foods. Yes, do not over budget. Most of these things you can find in the market. It's very cheap. Do not complicate your life. Your child will eventually get used to all of these foods, and she will be happy, she will enjoy it, and she will have fun with the meal. So it just depends on how well you planned. And I mean, if you're lucky enough to have a baby who does not have allergies or react to food quickly, it becomes so easy. If your baby is allergic to some of these foods, just go back to your doctor and find out what's up, and they will be able to explain. But my point here is, weaning should not be expensive, weaning should not be complicated. Do not overcomplicate your life with so many YouTube videos where you're being told do this, do this, do that, unless otherwise you've been advised by the doctor. And we come to the end of this. Should you have any question, please comment down below, and we will be talking more about all these things in my next video. Thank you, and have a nice day.